Hey, it's your boy, Sergeant Hooked on Heroes. Sorry, just finished coffee. Hitting you with another brand spanking new review for this time Kamen Rider Geats, episode 47. We're getting right down to it. I will say, up to this point, Geats had kind of a rocky-ish final arc here, but not nearly as rocky and just non-existent as Revice had, so I still hold it as one of my top 3 favorite seasons, honestly. But we'll get to that later once I do like an overall thoughts of the whole series type review. So as we know from last week's episode, this week is all about Kagura wanting his revenge on Keiwa, right? So he's pissed that Keiwa couldn't become the Kamen Rider he wanted him to be. And then he lost control of him, basically. So he sets up his own GGP to basically set it up so that Keiwa is the only rider that exists and must fight him no matter when he wants to. No matter what, doesn't matter where and when, at a moment's notice, has to fight him. And also involves, of course, innocent people and Jamato that are going to basically eat them. And so we also started the episode really interestingly, though, which I thought was good, with some civilian stuff. So it was just Michinaga, Neon, Keiwa, and Daichi. And Michinaga is apologizing. I apologize profusely myself, just like Michinaga does. But I got a goofy head cold right now because there's a random temperature change in where I live. So I sound like garbage, and I'm sorry. But anyway, Michinaga essentially is apologizing profusely for what he did. That he's sorry for the people that he hurt. He's sorry for acting the way that he did and for what happened to Sarah. And Keiwa says, it's okay. I do forgive you, just like I said before. And, you're okay. You've proven to us that you are heroic. You are a good person and that you made a mistake. And he even also apologizes to Neon and just everything that he can apologize for. And Daichi talks about that Neon has had an effect on her, and so did Sarah as well. That apparently a side effect of having her memories within him was that some of her innate goodness, if you will, rubbed off on him. And that he's starting to see that maybe protecting people that want to have boring happiness, or what he thinks, it's kind of a warped way of protecting smiles, right? So he wants to protect people so that they can be boring and have their happiness, I guess. Because that was something that was really fascinating to him. When he had Sarah's memories, he saw for the first time someone else's happiness, true happiness. And that so far he's not been able to attain that. This is cool, but it kind of comes very last minute out of nowhere. And again, I think they've kind of dropped the ball on Daichi. He's a character that I very much so feel could have been really cool, but they just never really knew what they were doing with them, and then he just became cannon fodder, the character. And yes, right here is... Well, let's see if I can get to it. The Geats won the score, by the way. Just got that today. Second. Okay. So again, comes out of left field a little bit, but it does make some kind of sense. I mean, we're all used to these kind of goofy concepts within Tokusatsu about good and evil and the power of friendship and stuff like that. So it's not completely ridiculous. It's just kind of silly, honestly. And again, it just kind of feels like the writers didn't know what to do with him a little bit. But still cool that he's mostly on the good side and wants to help. So Kagura puts through his wish with fake Sumari, right? And creates his DGP, turns everybody else into little animals, basically. I think Neon turns into a little kitty. Punk Jack is there. He becomes a pumpkin. I think I'm pretty sure Michinaga is a little cow toy or something like that. So all turned into little toys, and they're not able to do anything, right? Daichi's left around, but left as he is. But so Keiwa is of course challenged by Kagura that he wants to fight him and he wants to have their final battle, blah blah blah. But he's also going to be putting into place that he's going to put people in danger just for the fuck of it, because he's a psychopath, right? He wants to get a final laugh and finally see his true Kamen Rider come out. And so Keiwa puts together a plan with Daichi, unbeknownst to Kagura. So he fights him. He just in ninja form, and it's the whole time you're like, why is he just fighting in ninja form? He's clearly going to kick your ass, Keiwa, and you have Bujin sword. But then you start to understand there's two sides to it. One, that he's totally fucking with Kagura, which I love, and for two, that in a certain way, he's kind of a little worried about using that power again because he's scared of reverting back to how he was before, the darker side of him that he had taken on when he thought Sarah was really dead and never coming back, and his parents in general, his family. And so it kind of worked for me that he didn't want to use it at first. It was a little annoying, but he was still mostly holding his own against Keikara. But there comes a moment where during one of their fights where they're in this like stage area, and it looks like he's about to lose, and that the people are about to get eaten, and all of a sudden the Jamato come in, and instead of eating the people, they knock them out of their chains and let the people go. And he's like, Keikara's like, what? And Daichi's like, just because, I'm not, part of this anymore doesn't mean I don't have control. He's like, what do you mean control? He's like, well, I still have control over Jamato. I grew those Jamatos. They're going to listen to me. So he commanded them to do that, and they set him up. Keikara's like, really? This whole act right here was a setup? And Kay was like, yeah, it was totally just a setup to catch you off guard, to save these people, so I can kick your ass. And Keikara keeps going on and on and on about how he, needs to listen to him, and that, he needs to use his power for this, use his power for that. And Kay was straight bust out with, I love it, because this is such a core tenet of Rider. He straight bust out with, my power is my own to do with what I wish. It is my own to use to protect the ones that I love. I fucking love that, because that is at the heart of what Kamen Rider is all about. Like the original Takeshi Hongo, made into this awful cyborg monster, decides to use that power instead to turn against his captors and save people from suffering the same fate, knowing full well he'll never have a normal human life. Same thing here, using the power given to you to save people, regardless of what other people are trying to do, how people are trying to, manipulate you, what have you. I love it. So we have him go into full Bujin sword mode. He beats the piss out of Keikara. As this is all going on, we also get more with Ace, who's starting to become more of a full statue, right? And we get a call back to the intro where he breaks out of those chains because Geats has what's called the Zillion driver, which looks to be a remold of the Vision driver, puts it on, and he's, talking shit to Ace and lose your free will. Once you lose your free will, you'll fully be a creation god and we'll have full control over you and blah, blah, blah. And Ace finally breaks through from the chains, gets his normal hair back and everything. Has Geats 9 still, so I don't fully know if it means that he has his full creation powers or not. But he's showing, he surprises the shit out of Geats that he still has full free will and control. So this might be the first time that a creation god of any kind, creation goddess, god, whatever, has full direct control over their powers. And that's really cool. So he transforms, of course, but then Geats finally henshins, pulls out the Zillion driver, transforms into Kamen Rider Regard. And it seems to be one that combines the audience members with him and his power, and that's how his suit works, because he feeds off of their gleam. Fake Sumuri keeps talking about, let me use some of your gleam and I can grant your wish, right? She did it with Baraba, and then also with Keikara. So same thing. Production stuff come out and said that that's what that is. That it's all the DGP, basically audience, was combined with the power of the suit, and he's feeding off of their gleam, and is using that to be kind of like his own, basically a fabricated or a fake creation god of sorts. He's able to keep up with Geats for a little bit. He scores a couple good hits on him, but Geats is able to eventually defeat him, as is Keikara, completely mollywopped by Bujin Sword Tycoon, which I was so happy about. In his very last moments, he's of course laughing maniacally. He finally got his moment. He finally got his laughs. He finally became a Kamen Rider, blah, blah, blah. And Keikara, disintegrates, goes away. And everybody's turned back to normal. So Ace is able to defeat Geats, but we find out Geats isn't just Geats. Geats is actually the physical body of Sururu, however you want to say it. Sururu comes back and says that he separated out his physical body to create Geats to then utilize later as he saw fit. So I kind of like that, honestly, that it's this really long drawn out plan kind of a thing to kind of test the waters and see what he could do to stop, Ace from doing what he was doing as a creation god. And so he absorbs Geats back into himself, and he puts on the Zillion driver. and it goes into a second mode of Kamen Rider Regard, whatever it is, Omega. And it opens up the helmet, so it's like this giant eye on the center. It looks so fucking cool. It's a really nice suit, even though it's a technically a kit bash. I'm sorry about all the coughing. I apologize. A kit bash of like the Gazer and like Glare suits, along with like a bit of like Assault Wolf and stuff like that. It still looks really cool. I really like the suit. I think it's a nice juxtaposition and very much looks like a, next to Geats 9, very much looks like a demon juxtaposed next to the angelic Geats 9. I think it's really cool. And he, swears to strike out against Ace and, finally end it and bring the bad end. So that's how we end the episode. Overall, this episode was decent. I do think that as we get closer to the end here, there's been a bit more ass-pully things happening, but it doesn't ruin the experience for me. I've seen a few other contemporaries of mine that talk about the show that are getting a little like fed up with certain things and not understanding certain things, and like even like going on tangents about how the show is awful now. I don't think it's awful. I do think the villains are probably the weakest part of the show, but so much about the rest of it is so well crafted that I just don't care. I don't know. And I'm not trying to say that they're wrong. I'm not trying to say that if you don't like the show right now, or if you never did, or if you hate it now because like near the end it's not as strong or whatever, that's invalid. Nothing like that at all. But I do think that out of everything, if it's just the villains that are kind of meh, and really just honestly Sewell / Jeet, that's really it. Everyone else has been decent villain-wise. That's not a bad thing. Like, there's lots of Rider seasons that kind of end on a whimper with a villain that's not really anything and is more of a force of nature than anything. X8 did it to an extent. Evault sort of became that near the end of Build. And a few other seasons really kind of did that for the most part. But overall, the episode was okay. I still liked the fights in it. Were fantastic. I wasn't the biggest fan of the whole thing with Daichi and him all of a sudden deciding that he's like maybe sort of good, but I did like him working with Keiwa to have this back, this kind of like, underhanded manipulative plan to, throw Keikara off guard and be able to finally defeat him and save people. That was really cool. Definitely can tell that Keiwa has learned from Ace that there's a way to be sly and manipulative without hurting people. I think he's finally learned that, and that's really cool. They even get like a nice little fist bump moment. I thought that was really awesome. But overall, a decent episode. I would say, probably score somewhere around a 7.5 out of 10. I don't think it's a trash episode, but it wasn't perfect. Last week's episode was really, really good. So, I don't think this one is awful, but I do think it could have been a little bit better. Probably if the Daichi stuff was left out of it, or the Daichi stuff they did wasn't all, led up to with previous episodes of it making sense that he would do this, But other than that, it's pretty decent, and overall, I'm still really loving Geats. Like I said, everybody has their own perfect favorite season of these shows. Some people absolutely despise 01. Some people see it as a godsend. Some people love Kuga. Some people don't love Kuga. Some people love Build. Some people don't. And that's okay. And I'm not trying to say that just because I'm fine with how things are at the end point of Geats, that everyone else has to be. It's when people go overboard, making like skits about it and like being like over the top about it, that it gets to be a little too much, But overall, I'm enjoying my time with Geats. But let me know what you thought about this week's episode. You love it, hate it in the middle, your favorite moments. Speaking of moments, I do have my playlist of Power Month 2023, which is the most badass moments in each Power Ranger season that I'm doing this year. Check that out if you guys want to on the channel. It's a really fun series I've put together for this year's 30th anniversary of Power Rangers Power Month that we're having in August. And this week on the Henshins and Homies podcast, as we're recording this, we'll be having on the we'll be recording at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we'll be having on Out of Space Reviews, which is a Toku tuber based out of Australia, actually, that are huge Toku fans, create really awesome content talking about the toys and the shows and all that good stuff. They'll be on our guest on the show this Friday, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, a little bit later because time zones are a little different there, so we're giving them a little extra time to be awake. But thank you so much for liking, commenting, subscribing, watching my channel. I really appreciate it. Sharing, all that good stuff. But as always, stay hooked on heroes. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.